Thank you so much for a wonderfully warm welcome for this incredible, important session. I cannot say how honored I am to have my former chairman, Rob Hersov, join the Expert 101 on the role of family businesses for Africa. Rob, a huge warm welcome to you this morning from South Africa. Thank you sincerely for joining us.
Dara, lovely to see you again. I'm so proud to be on the forum, and I just want to give a lot of credit to you and Ara Venezia, and this is a fantastic forum. Well done.
Thank you so much. So Rob, to crack on, really, I think we've discussed impact investing for many years, especially when you had decided to found Invest Africa. It was about creating these meaningful relationships and bringing a spotlight onto the continent. I'd love to understand what impact investment means to you and how you define it, because I think your insight would be incredible. So thank you so much. Over to you, Rob.
Zahra, it depends on where one is investing. And there are 55 countries in Africa. But if you take Africa as a whole, or sub-Saharan Africa, and you talk about impact investing, I believe the most important thing of all is to give people opportunity, hope, and something to look forward to. So giving someone a job, a paid job, is the greatest thing you can give them, because the multiplier effect in Africa is so much greater than anywhere else in the world. I can't mention the big corporation in Africa, Pan-Africa Corporation, but they did an analysis of the multiplier effect of giving someone a salaried job. And depending on the country, it's between 20 and 50 other people. So it's not just direct family members, but it's people who then start businesses to supply the business that he or she is creating. So giving someone a job, an employed job, is absolutely the key. That's the real impact that one can achieve in Africa.
And based on that, Rob, what would you say in terms of, measuring impact is sort of one of the big key discussion points that we've seen throughout the forum and across the topic, where we're saying, how do we measure the success? And this is where we can't necessarily determine the ROI, but in this instance, we can say the sort of return of impact rather than investment. How do you see this sort of job creation opportunity allowing us to kind of serve that measurement issue within impact?
So there are many ways to measure it, and the private equity firms, I think, almost have the best measurement, and it's quite a complex cross-section of boxes to tick that you're fulfilling, in terms of gender diversity, and starting with employment, gender diversity, other elements of diversity, how green, how clean. And I think all of that is good, but those are subsets of the most important issue, which is giving someone a job. If you can create economic growth, and that's something that the ANC, our people running our country, don't ever mention, economic growth, but it really is the most important thing of all. And 6 of the 10 fastest growing countries in the world are in Africa. But absolutely. We did a private and confidential analysis. We took the main countries in Africa, the key hubs, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, and we stripped out out of the GDP numbers, the tech development. So you might get a country growing at 3, 4, 5, 6% GDP, but the tech sector is growing between 50 and 200%. Wow. So if you ask me where the opportunities are in Africa, it's technology, and it's now.
So Rob, actually, that allows me to kind of allude into that. So you mentioned that you've done this incredible analysis of the situation on the ground. So do you mind perhaps sharing some of the key projects that you're working on, and where has impact become your focus?
So I've done in fact, in the last 6 months, I've launched a SPAC to the first ever mining SPAC, first ever Africa SPAC, $400 million listed on the New York Stock Exchange. I've launched 2 tech companies. I've bought an airport near Cape Town. I'm building the second airport in Cape Town. And the biggest one of all, which is actually still confidential, but I'm going to tell you because I adore you and my new friend Ara, with 2 of the biggest names in technology in the world, both from Sweden. We're launching a $200 million Africa Technology Growth Fund. And we're going to invest in health tech, education tech, fintech, and an area we call market enablement. We have $60 million already committed by the 3 founders and a group of unicorn founders, people that have built, 18 of them who've built billion-dollar businesses, who will make themselves available to our African portfolio companies to help them be successes. And what we want to do is create role models. In 2005 in Stockholm, no one had ever thought of Stockholm as a technology place to be. And then Nicholas Zenstrom sold Skype for $2 billion. And all of a sudden people started to say, well, he's kind of nerdy and not that smart. I can do it. And more people started to launch businesses. And now Stockholm's one of the biggest tech hubs in the world. Klarna, the most valuable private tech company in Europe, Spotify, and many, many others. So we want to create African unicorns, African role models. So more and more people say, hang on, I can do that too.
I mean, Rob, thank you so much for actually announcing that on this forum. I think that is, much needed. Again, I think several conversations that I've had with you in the past about how do we create opportunities, by Africans for Africa. And I think tech is the most, it is the enabler in order for us to do this. So huge congratulations. And I can't wait to see where this goes. And
well, we've got one other little thing. So we've hired the top GP team you could imagine. A woman in Johannesburg, a woman in Lagos, and a Kenyan in Nairobi. I can't say who they are, but we'll announce that soon. But Nicholas Adelberth, the co-founder of Klarna, the most valuable private tech company in Europe, $46 billion, still private, is putting all of his carry, which is about 20% of the carry of the fund, back into Africa through his Norshen Foundation. So our social impact is going to be huge on day one. So that's also exciting news.
I feel like that's absolute music to my ears. And I think it's so needed, especially given the year that we've all gone through and everyone sort of, I think impact's really been brought to the forefront as a result of sort of, post-pandemic era as we try to grow and develop. And I think, having such funds and obviously having great minds such as yourself, Rob, to spearhead this is really needed in the continent. So huge congratulations. I can't wait to find out further details and to hear about these amazing individuals that are joining your journey. So huge congratulations. On that, Rob, actually, and I think something that we touched on before recording this session was about the importance of funding. So although the kind of narrative around impact is sort of yet to be, we've all got our own definitions. We all understand, purpose-driven investments. But I think funding plays a fundamental role here in order for us to actually get to achieving our impact. Therefore, from your background with your family office, as well as a, very successful individual entrepreneur, how do you see family offices playing a role to accelerate the impact in Africa?
So until now, and I'm generalizing, most of the investments in new businesses or funds have been done by DFIs, the development finance institutions, who've done an amazing job. CDC, DEG, DFC, Swedfund, Norfund, FinFund, FMO, amazing. But in many cases, they are not very commercial, not for profit, or they have very high standards, which may not be that applicable when it comes to the social impact era. So increasingly, family offices are saying, look, Africa's starting to turn. Technology is where it's at right now, amongst other sectors, but I'm going to talk tech. And we want to be in. We want to invest. And these family offices can commit significant funding. They're not just the 5s and 10 millions. They are potentially 50s and above $1 million per investment or per fund, per family. So more and more family offices are saying, look, it's very difficult to get returns in Europe and America because valuations are out of control. Getting talent is even harder. The retention rate in Silicon Valley is 6 months. If you keep a top employee in your company for 6 months, you've done well. It's crazy. In Africa, relatively, we have a lot of talent, great entrepreneurs, but a lack of capital. Now, at the venture level, the DFIs and venture funds have been investing for the last 15, 20 years, and the unicorns are starting to appear. But what we think is missing is the next level of funding, the growth capital, the sort of late Series A, B, C, D. And in the past, most companies would get to revenue, start to create traction, look for the next round of funding, and then they'd have to go overseas to Silicon Valley. We want to be the Silicon Valley in Africa funding partner. So that's the exciting part from our side. Now, family offices are going to be fundamental in that. And we, as my background is in that area, you know, I've done a lot of calls on behalf with Hans and Nicholas, my partners, on behalf of our fund. And I've never had such resonance. Hans, who's raised 9 funds at North Zone, and North Zone is the Sequoia of Europe. He's on his 9th fund at North Zone, 12 unicorns. Okay, he's the unicorn hunter and one of my best friends. Said that he's never had such a positive feedback from all the family offices we're calling. And many of them have invested already in Africa, but many haven't yet invested and are saying, we buy into the thesis. We see Africa about to happen. This is exciting. We want in. So something's turning and it's very exciting.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I can feel the energy through this, Rob. I think it's, as you said, timing is fundamental, and also making sure that you've got leaders of industry to be able to shape the narrative on the continent. I think, you know, it sounds like you've got the key recipe there for huge success. But I think, so what I would love to understand as well is, obviously you've now announced this incredible platform that you're creating and building. You know, why did you see that there was a need to do that now? And why do we feel that impact, you know, is at the forefront? So, you know, you've decided that now it's time, social impact is key for you and your journey. But why now, Rob, if I may ask? And what are some of the lessons on the ground or some of the sort of nightmares perhaps that you've seen that you think, right, I've really got to take matters into my own hands?
Very good question. So my frustration comes from governance. You know, there are 55 countries in Africa. I sensibly evangelize investments in Africa. There are probably only 15 countries that are investable, and there are only 9 that I would invest in. I mean, that's pretty poor. 55, I would only invest in 9. You're going to ask me which ones, but this is for another conversation.
To say, I'll
and there's only one sector. I mean, other than my airport that I'm building near Cape Town, but there's only one sector that really excites me. It's technology. And you asked why? Because there are 1.2 billion people in Africa. 60% are below the age of 25, and the average age is 19. Everyone has some form of mobile device, not a smartphone yet, but the prices are coming down so fast that in the next few years, everyone of the 600 million young people who in 10 years are going to be, you know, 29, 30, 35 years old, everyone will have a smartphone connected to the internet. And you know what that means? It means no longer are they going to put up with spending a whole day paying their bills. They're going to pay it in seconds using Flutterwave, Paystack, and other fintech companies. No longer are people who are in the urban areas or villages going to accept one teacher teaching them every single subject under a tree or in a rudimentary classroom. They're going to connect straight to Harvard Online or great universities and schools overseas. And no longer will people have to go to the local doctor, you know, travel quite a distance. They just get straight through to great Indian doctors or great Swiss doctors, telemedicine. And it's happening now. And that's going to be 600 million people who will be able to do that. It's going to change Africa, and it's going to leapfrog bad governments. You know, you won't need to rely on the ANC anymore to mess things up. We just it's true. We're going to leapfrog that in edutech, fintech, medtech, and other areas like agri-tech. I'm so excited about Africa, and the young people can see it. They don't want, you know, why do you need a license to cut hair? It makes no sense.
Absolutely.
You know, governments just put regulations in the way, but digital leapfrogs that. It's so exciting. Africa's going to take off, and the young are going to say, well, if this person can be a billionaire, if she can build this business, if he can do that, I can too. I'm going to give it a go. And we want to be the capital to allow them to do that.
I mean, again, I think it's, sorry, go on, Rob, please.
One last thing. Why now?
Yes, that was
all of the family offices that we speak to are moving from my generation to the younger generation. And the younger generation of these big family offices in Africa and around the world are saying, hey, mum and dad, amazing what you've built. We're very lucky to be, you know, the recipients of this. but we want to make a difference in the world. We want to make investments that improve people's lives. We want to make money, for profit, commercial, but do good at the same time. That's what's changing. The big mentality in the world is changing here in the younger generation saying, now, Nicholas Adelbert's a good example, the co-founder of Klarna. He took a lot of money off the table of Klarna. He's made a fortune. Such a smart guy. And he's decided that the rest of his life, he's going to improve other people's lives with his money. So he's founded the Norshen Foundation, and he funds companies that improve other people's lives. I mean, that's where the world is heading, and that's wonderful. Governments beware. You're not in charge. We are.
I think Robbie touched on a really great point there. I think we have highlighted the importance of family offices, but the sort of, how we're transcending now into next gen and how everyone is far more driven by purpose. It's becoming, we can't ignore it. And it's refreshing to know that even for you and your peers, Rob, that you understand this and that you're trying to implement this now, so that you really are trying to almost pass the baton on to the next gen. So again, hugely, hugely reassuring. I think on that as well, if we kind of go back to the family office discussion, and the reason why I mentioned that is obviously, you know this region fairly well, being based here in the UAE, that family offices truly are the backbone of the economy and in terms of growth and opportunity. We've got about 72% of businesses on the ground that are essentially run by family businesses and the legacy that they hold. What I'd love to understand is perhaps for some of our listeners, and although family offices are becoming far more savvier into the impact space, what are a couple of the lessons or things that you've seen as you're kind of, going on to this journey what are some tangible, perhaps guidelines? Why should family offices invest in impact? I'd love to have some of your insights, because I think these key sound bites that you've given us in this interview would go, a long way for us to perhaps guide some of the family offices, even here in the region, over to the continent as well.
So I just firstly have to credit the UAE. The UAE has been flying the flag for Africa in the Middle East, head and shoulders above anywhere else, head and shoulders above Saudi and everywhere else. And funnily enough, in the last week on my fund, Hudson and I have had 4 conversations, 1 with the Saudi family office, 3 with UAE family office, 1 yesterday, Wujud Al Fatayim. And they are committed to doing not just smart investing in Africa, but impact investing. They want to know that what they're doing is going to make people's lives better from all angles. I'm very impressed with the guy, Joe. Joe and Mohammed yesterday. Very impressive young man, smart, and very keen to do the right thing in Africa. I mean, what a great conversation. And then my old buddy Kamal Bakhamdan, the same thing, he really wants purpose in his investing in his family office, So I think the UAE and the Middle East can do enormous good. And the UAE, to its credit, has been flying Africa flag for a long time. And in the Dubai chambers, and our friend Laila, amazing job that they do. So well done the UAE, well done the Middle East, and let's see more. And what the Middle East and the UAE in particular, forcing other countries to kind of move a little faster in their positive investing in Africa. And certain countries which might have gone into Africa with a more rapacious view, like China, are being cautioned to start doing more of the right thing in Africa. So other countries doing good, not just family offices, are influencing others. It's positive momentum. I love it.
No, absolutely. And Rob, because I'm just conscious of time, I'd love to, there's just a couple more questions as well, if I may. So I think for your journey to date, it's obviously, you've been a part of several sectors, and obviously now tech is something that hugely excites you. I think one point I just wanted to ask, and we've spoken about the next gen, we've touched a little bit about the youth and the fact that we've got almost 600 million users to our disposal coming up within the next decade. What are some of the lessons that you've perhaps also taken from the youth on the ground? What are some of the things, because again, I think I've personally seen you as one of my professional mentors to date. And this sort of, we touched on mentorship and the importance of it. What are some of the messages that we can give the youth today, where we understand impact, but how can they actually be able to create this into something tangible I'd love again to know
Yeah.
your insights almost as a mentor to the youth, that this is a message that we can give to them.
So mentoring is fundamental. And, if there is a business opportunity in mentoring, and I'm a business animal, it's how do you scale mentoring? There are extraordinary people in the world, extraordinary, that I've learned from, but I've been lucky enough to be working directly with them. How do I take that knowledge and give it to a lot more other people? Well, you do it through role models. Success stories breed success. You see an African, Elon Musk, as the richest man in the world. Wow. I mean, that excites all Africans, even if Elon's a bit different, special, whatever you think. He's from Africa. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the second richest person in Los Angeles, is also from Africa. That's one and two. We must be doing something right. There are Nigerian businesses that are popping through as unicorns. Flutterwave, Calendly. Do you know Calendly was founded by Nigerians? Another African.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. So we must trumpet our successes as Africans, just M-Pesa from Kenya. Let's get people around the world to know what we're doing right. And things will flow from that. So mentoring is fundamental. It's how do you scale it? I'm setting up a mentoring system with a young man called Teddy Kuzmayo in South Africa, bringing other mentors in and giving younger people access to these people. So I'm very excited about that. Why has this happened in this part of my life? I think it's just an age thing. You get to a point where you think, I'm actually happy with what I've done. I don't want to have more money particularly. I'm good at business, so I'll keep trying because I enjoy it. But nothing gives me greater joy than to spend a little bit of time with younger people who take my advice and then make successes of it. I mean, it just warms my heart. And I'm thinking of some specific people right now, and I'm just so proud of them, And if they outperform me, I'd be thrilled. I honestly would be thrilled.
No, and I know that comes from a sincere place, because you've always been a huge advocate for anybody that's worked with you. And I can say that personally. So,
and I love the way you say worked with. No one's ever worked for me.
You taught me that. You've taught me that.
Yeah.
No, Rob, that's one of the lessons you taught me, that we worked with you. Yeah, wouldn't have done it without you. You're one of my huge mentors, personally. So
thank you.
It's a huge honor, and I know that comes from a sincere place. So Rob, just the last question, if I may, although I could sit with you and talk with you for hours and get all of your sound bites, but it would be great just as a concluding, just to kind of go back to the session, how we've talked about the role that family offices can play within impact. What are some of the kind of couple minutes of advice that you can give investors that are looking into startups into Africa? And although, you're creating this platform, why should investors now invest in Africa? Why into tech? And so essentially, why should investors, particularly the family office space, look in Africa now? So I'd love for you to perhaps, again, share your knowledge there.
So one is the big macro pivot, that the 600 million young people who in the next 10 years are going to be consumers, even with small amounts of money, micropayments, all through the device that they have in their hands that are getting cheaper. This is the future of Africa. So that's timing. The second is, the pivot has shifted to Africa, and Africa is going to create its unique technology answers to problems. They're not going to look completely like what's happening in Asia, Europe, and America. They're going to be African solutions, because there are different challenges here. And young people, just should get up and give it a go, because failure is no longer a negative thing. It used to be, in America's always said failure is a learning lesson, and they're right. I had a huge failure with Sportal company, didn't make it, but I learned more than I ever learned in success. And Johan Rupert, a great friend of mine, says, never confuse luck with genius. Some people build businesses are lucky, but it doesn't mean they're smart. So the message really for family offices is Africa's time is now, particularly in technology, and technology or technology enabled. It's quite a broad church. The talent is in Africa, no question. There are tons of smart, dynamic people being raised in Africa or returning from incredible training abroad. They want to come home. They want to come back to Ghana, back to Namibia, back to Zambia, wherever, and build businesses. So the time really is now, and family offices are realizing that. The DFIs have done a great job, the institutions have done a great job, but now's the time for the family offices, particularly with the younger generation like you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Again, a huge, huge honor to have you. And thank you as ever for being so incredibly articulate and for giving us your insights on the ground. And, it's a huge pleasure to be reunited. I look forward to hearing all things about your technology platform. And of course, I speak on behalf of Innovate for Good. If there's anything we can do to support you here in the region, we would be honored. And again, thank you sincerely for your time. And I look forward to hopefully doing this physically again, rather than having to allude to us doing this on Zoom. So,
lovely.
Again, huge, huge regards to you. And thank you
so much. Keep flying the flag, Zara. You've been amazing. Thank you,
I will
darling.
forever. Okay. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.